Hi, about time, isn't it? Welcome to the acting analysis, where we break down actors' first roles, best roles, worst roles, what got them into acting and whatnot. It has been so long since I've actually made one of these videos. I am so sorry. I feel like I keep apologizing in every video that I make. And yeah, just like things keep changing. My hair is different from the last video at this point, and also, this video looks different from the last video. There's definitely a trend going on in this channel where consistency is a joke. I promise I will try to be as consistent as possible now. I will try my best. But if you're not familiar with the series anyways, the other videos, as ugly as they look, Jesus, what was this lighting? I'm so sorry. We will be going over an actor's career and essentially reviewing it with some minor changes. I kind of want to showcase more of the projects they worked on, so I will probably do something like that in this video. I have no idea what yet. But the actor today is going to be Nick Cage, and I did make a script for this video for once. If I just... Yes, for once a script, and again my phone is my mic, so this will be high quality audio. Alright, so let's get straight into it. Nick Cage. Probably one of the most recognizable actors and voice actors of all time. There's this trend going around where supposedly there is no real celebrity nowadays, not like there used to be. There used to be the action stars, there used to be this and that. Those actors and celebrities that are still alive are still very recognizable. Nick Cage is one of those. His full name is Nicolas Kim Coppola, which is, once again, a very dope name, and he sounds like a Dracula sort of person, and he played Dracula recently, so props to having really cool names that remind me of very famous characters. He's an American actor and producer. His father was August Floyd Coppola, which according to my script, he was an academic, art advocate, author, and film executive. He was also brother of Francis Ford Coppola. I did not know this prior to researching Nick Cage for this, so this is all really interesting. His mother was Joy Vogelsang. She was a dancer and a choreographer. Now, why is his name Nick Cage if he's a Coppola and related to the other Coppolas in Hollywood? Well, he didn't really want to be associated with his uncle, not in any bad way, but because he wanted to make a name for himself. And so he went with the stage name Nick Cage, or Nicolas Cage. And yes, the name that we know him by is a stage name, not the real one. I was shocked to find that out, actually. So why act in the first place? Apparently he fell in love with it while taking a summer class at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. One of the first changes to the acting analysis is I'm going to be talking about first roles and first movie roles if they're separate or different in any way. And for Nick Cage, it is separate. His first role was in the pilot for the TV show Best of Times in 1981. Which never aired. This was also Crispin Glover's debut into acting, and when I say that it never aired, I don't mean the pilot, I mean the show. It never got picked up. The pilot, however, it does exist. And this is where Nicolas Cage first started, but if we're talking movies, that would happen to be the 1982 Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He originally auditioned for the role of Renfield, but he got a minor role instead. Now we're going to be talking about the most recent role, which I'm going to change it up a little bit for the acting analysis. I'm not just going to mention what came out, but I will be putting an emphasis on what is also coming out, if anything is coming out at all. And for Nick Cage, we got 3 years worth of content so far. What is officially done and out already is Dream Scenario 2023. 2024 actually has 2 movies, Longlegs and Arcadian, which are both in post-production and both also produced by Nick Cage, and 2025's The Surfer, which is currently filming. Nick Cage definitely has his work cut out for him. He is busy and booked. Now, I couldn't necessarily find this in words on like a Wikipedia or anything like that, but I do know for a fact that Nick Cage voices Spider-Man Noir in Into the Spider-Verse, and since that character is going to return, there's a good chance that he might voice that character as well for the upcoming Spider-Verse movies too. If we're going to be talking how many movies Nick Cage has made, the number is at least 115. At least. Now we're going to go into his least and favorite roles that he's ever played, and I couldn't actually find an answer for least favorite roles. I'm sure he starred in some movie he didn't care for, but from interviews that I've tried to find and research that I tried to do, articles, etc., I couldn't actually find an answer for what movie he hated being on, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there really was no concrete answer for that. I would love to ask him myself. He's just a lover of acting and film and such, so I don't necessarily think he really hated a project. If he didn't like it, he probably wouldn't take it, and he's been pretty adamant about that as well. Anyways, as for his most favorite role, he's been pretty vocal about the roles that he really likes and the movies that he's really liked. But from the information that I've gathered, it seems like his favorite role that he's ever been in is in The Pig 2021. Now, I watched this movie myself as well, and yes, his acting in that is incredible. I feel like it's probably, close to his best role I've ever seen. and he really has just raw emotion. He really liked the idea of it essentially being like almost like Taken, but not necessarily. It's just like a pig that smells truffles, and he's a chef, and he's more secluded. And I don't want to give too much away, but if you have watched this movie, or if you plan to, Nick Cage's performance in this is very nuanced, it's very well made, it's very real and emotional, and it's just very good. So for him to say that this is his favorite role, I 100% can see why. It seemed like he had a great time being on set, and it seemed like he had a real connection to the character that he was playing in that film itself. Now we're going to get into the personal worst and personal best roles of Nick Cage, and I'm going to do something a little different. Now I say worst role with a grain of salt because it's all about constructive criticism at the end of the day, so what I really mean is what the weakest role is. I usually always have my personal preference for what I think the weakest one is and what I think the best one is, but Nick Cage has so many movies, and so many of them are bad movies. If you ask me, I feel like even all these campy bad roles are entertaining in their own right because of some of the very over-the-top acting and the German expressionism here and there and the way that Nick Cage carries himself. It's iconic to who he is as a person and an actor. I don't necessarily see these roles as like bad. I know there are roles that are lesser than others. So I'm going to do something a little bit more interesting. I'm going to ask you guys, the audience, what your worst favorite Nick Cage role is, and also probably your favorite. But because there's just so many movies, I'm more interested to see what other people think as opposed to mine. Obviously, I cannot watch all of these films. There's just so many movies for a lot of these actors. I just have no time to really watch all of them, although ideally I would love to just one day sit down, be able to do an acting analysis as like a full-time thing and go and watch every single thing. So when it comes to the stuff that I've personally watched, I can't say that there are really so many roles that I've watched of his that I can be like, yeah, this one's the worst out of 115 at least. But I did want to know what you guys thought his worst role was because, you know, and also what his best role was. And I'll give a slight answer. I would feel like Color Out of Space, although it's an interesting movie. I love Lovecraftian stuff. I feel like Nick Cage was underutilized in this, and the direction for his acting was a little,
What the fuck are you talking about?
Hey, coming up! Oh, God, there!
You know, I've had it with your drama, Lavinia. So do me a favor and get the fuck out of my sight, okay?
Alright, so we're past his weaker roles at this point. What do I consider to be his personal best role? And I know we talked about The Pig. I do agree that The Pig is an excellent role that Nick Cage has taken upon himself. But if we're talking personally, for me, 2018's Mandy is my favorite.
Nothing's better than cheddar.
Cheddar Goblin. In terms of a personal preference, I love horror and I love scary stuff. I also remember watching Mandy for the first time and I was like, wow, this is an insane movie. But not just the movie itself. Nick Cage's range in that movie, to me, is one of my favorite portrayals ever. He plays the character of Red, and he goes through love and grief and anger and extreme violence.
It's crazy evil.
So many emotions, pain, so many things that, yes, although The Pig from 2021 is probably a lot more nuanced and a lot more rigid and probably had a much better grasp of what acting was as being analyzed in terms of the character that he played and such, I feel like, to me at least, Mandy just holds a special place in my heart. I was actually super excited to watch it on the second anniversary when it was screening in certain theaters. That's actually how I got my Cheddar Goblin mac and cheese box. I got 3 of them. I ate the other 2 because I wanted to know what it tasted like. I feel like Mandy's a great movie. It's a super psychedelic thriller horror ride. Super bloody, super raw. Nick Cage's emotions are very, very raw and they're very real. It's not just good acting, it's also some of his expressionism, some of his rage, some of those Nick Cage qualities that I feel like really shine in that movie. And I recommend Mandy to just about anybody. That is my personal favorite role of his. That is what I feel like is probably some of his best acting ever. So what's in store for Nick Cage in the future? Well, from what I have seen, there really seems like no plans to retire. I'm sorry, guys. Apparently I'm a filthy liar because when I recorded this 2 or so weeks ago, there was no news. Now, on December 5th, Sorry, guys. I guess he's retiring soon. I don't know when that'll be. We saw. He's got a couple more movies lined up. But not for long. Sorry, I'm a filthy liar, so just enjoy the next, like, 13 seconds or whatever long of me lying to the general public, even though it was filmed, like, weeks ago. I'm not surprised at all, but it should be noted that Nick Cage had some financial issues in the 2000s, mid-2000s, that essentially caused him to take on as many acting roles as possible, but he's been debt-free for a long time, and he's been living his life happily. Now that he no longer has these debts, he's still taking so many roles. It really shows that this man loves doing what he's doing. He has a true passion for it. He will continue to take role after role after role, even if it's voice, even if it's physical, even if he's not speaking at all. He really does care about the craft and such when it comes to acting. He's an actor that I notice it's not really about paychecks. He already spent a good portion of his life just kind of paying off debts through taking whatever roles he can, and we got so many both iconic and sillier, campier roles through it, and even when it was said and done, he never stopped. So he continues to go and he continues to produce, he continues to act even at his age. And I think I don't see any plans for retirement soon from him. It seems like he really enjoys doing what he does. And Nick Cage is definitely one of my favorite actors. I don't really care for Johnny Depp anymore after all the controversy stuff. I'd rather not talk about him. But I think it's worth mentioning that back in the day, it was Nick Cage who got him into acting in the first place. And the influence that Nick Cage had on just a bunch of other actors and actresses growing up into stuff that we probably would have never expected. He's been doing this for quite a while. He's connected to other Hollywood families, and I just think Nick Cage is a great dude all around. And I would love to eventually interview him and ask him a bunch of questions, maybe if the acting analysis stuff evolves into just more than talking about actors and actresses and actually getting to talk with them. But that's going to do it for this acting analysis. It is extremely overdue. I planned to have had this video about a year ago, and at this point, it's a year after. But we finally got around to it. I will be doing more acting analyses because this is probably one of the more popular videos on the channel anyways. And I genuinely don't know who I'm going to do next. So if you want to recommend anybody, recommend them in the comments. I'll check it out and I'll try to do it for you guys.